What's up, zoners? Welcome to the earliest waiver wire show on the interwebs. It is week 4, and I'm going to be going through all the players I think that you should add and how much you should spend on them. And hey, did you see my favorite late round running back sleeper? You can go back. There's video evidence. Just went off today. He scored like 50 points fantasy. And hey, I'm going to be telling you to spend $100 on that fool. If that sounds good to you, hold on for 7 seconds. What's up, zoners? This is Tyler, Big Turd Ward, and Banjo, the dog, coming at you live from my garage. And this is a Fantasy Red Zone. Today's episode. So like I said in the intro, this is our waiver wire show. I am shooting this early, so if there are players from tonight's game, I will add them in the comments with details. There are 2 Monday Night Football games. I will be adding those in the comments as well. Also, if there are players that you think deserve to be on this list, please comment below. Add them for all of us, we need your help. So I typed all of this out. I will be sharing my notes with you right now. First up, the man himself, my favorite late round running back sleeper. I tried to get him in all leagues, and Jason got him. So Jason kept on texting me, A-Chain, smash, A-Chain this, A-Chain that. Yeah, asshole. I tried to get him. Quit rubbing it in my face. I'm going to be telling you to spend $100 on him if you are thin at running back. In reality, I'd probably want to save like $5 just in case you make it to playoffs. Because those $1, on certain defenses or whatever, take you a long way there. But still, I would not mind spending $100 on this dude. He was activated last week after missing week 1 with a shoulder injury. He's been injured pretty much all preseason. He looked awesome preseason. I came on the show and was like, dude, did you see this fucking dude? Oh my God. And then he went down like right after that. He led Miami in rushes with 16. I think that might have been more than, yards, 128, and a touchdown. Also had 4 receptions for 30 yards and a touchdown, 2 touchdowns. I wrote all that out. And then Jason's like, super smash, whatever. He just scored another 67-yard rushing touchdown. He has over 200 yards rushing. He has 50 fantasy points. Dude, he looks the part. He hit like 22 miles an hour, which was the best since, Tyreek Hill in week 1. So, dude, Mostert was on that list too. He was like 21 and a half or something like that. But man, he fits the bill for a Miami superstar. This offense is insane. I want a piece of it. If I could trade for A-Chain, or if A-Chain was on my waiver wires, he's on 85% of leagues waiver wires. He's on 0% of Tyler's waiver wires. But still, dude, I'd spend so much cash on that dude. Miami is going to blow people out all the time, man. Like this, what happened today is just like, could happen like 4 times during the year. Now they are at Buffalo next week, and they give up the 19th most fantasy points allowed to running backs. So that is not a great matchup. But still, dude, we don't care about matchups with the Miami Dolphins anymore, okay? We're just rolling these fools out here. Next up, running backs are thin. That's what I'm talking about, dude. If you can get a chain chance, son of 2 chains, take that shot, man. Spend that money. Tyjae Spears, I'd spend $5 on Tyjae Spears. He had 8 touches to Henry's 11. He had 4 targets to Henry's 0. So Henry is not catching passes like he did last year. He outsnapped Henry in week 1. I have been watching this. Dude, he is so efficient when he touches the ball. But I think they went against the Browns today. It was just really hard for them to do anything because the Browns defense is insane. He is still averaging 5.5 yards per carry through 3 weeks. They host the Bengals next week, and they give up the 17th most fantasy points allowed to running backs. That's not a great matchup. That is pretty much average. But still, dude, one of the best handcuffs that you could ask for, one of the best lottery tickets in fantasy football right now. Next up, one of my other favorite late round running backs, Tank Bigsby. I spent $5 on him. He has 2 goal line touchdowns through 3 games, and this offense has sucked. Okay, so there could be a lot more opportunity here. ETN only converted on 2 of 10 of those goal line rushes inside the 5 last season, and here we go. Tank Bigsby already converting this shit. He only had 3 touches to ETN's 23, so again, like not much there. They do host the Falcons next week. They give up the 27th most fantasy points to running backs. That is a terrible matchup. The Falcons have a good front 7. A really good front 7 that can stop this. But still, dude, Tank Bigsby, important handcuff, important lottery ticket here. Next up, I'm watching this game right now. Jerick McKinnon, $5. I don't know who they're showing more, dude. Jerick McKinnon or fucking Taylor Swift. I cannot tell. I'd spend $5 on Jerick McKinnon. He was, dude, I picked him up in a lot of leagues. And then I dropped him when I was like, dude, I thought that week 1 just killed me when they did not have Travis Kelce. And Jerick McKinnon didn't do shit. But here we go. Today, we saw this early in the game before it was even a blowout. He was getting his receptions. He had 0 rushes, but he had three receptions for 19 yards and 2 touchdowns before he had any rush attempts. I don't know. I have not checked. He had 9 receiving touchdowns last year, so this is a trend, people. This is historical trends. So I would not mind picking this dude up for $5. He is at the Jets next week. They give up the 15th most fantasy points to running backs. I thought they'd be way better against running backs. Right now, they are just average. And when I tell you the most points to these positions, this is through the first 2 weeks. I do not have the information on the first 3 weeks just yet. Pierre Strong Jr., Jason's sister, Diana, she lost Chubb for last week. She picked up this dude, and I was like, who is this guy? And then, hey, man, I saw this, and I was like, he actually did the best. I'd spend $1 on him. He led the Browns in rushing yards and yards per carry at 4.5. Forward, I know he got that touchdown, but he did not look efficient. 1.8 yards per carry. And then Hunt is the person that I would want. I think he had 2 receptions for 20-something yards. He also, I think had 5 carries at 2.6. So anyways, Pierre Strong, though, is interesting. I mean, running backs are so thin, and everybody already has Hunt and Ford. I think that this guy is worth a pickup. He did have a touchdown last week. I think that's why Diana picked him up. They do host the Ravens next week, and they give up the 29th most fantasy points to running backs. That's pretty shitty, dude. Here we go. Kendre Miller. I had him on one of my late round sleepers, too. I liked him a lot, especially with Kamara being suspended for the first 3 games. Guess what? That's over with. But I would still spend $1 on Kendre Miller. This was his NFL debut. He led the team in running back rushes with 9. He only had 34 yards on that. Like I said, Kamara is back next week. This is a lottery ticket. So, and then Derek Carr was pumping him up. I really liked what I saw in the preseason, but again, he hurt his knee. They host the Bucks next week. They give up the 24th most points to fantasy running back. So again, not a great matchup. This is running backs are thin, dude. So we're trying to pick these people up and see how it goes. I was going to tell you guys to drop this fool if he was a no-show on Thursday. And hey, he looked pretty good. He did not get what I wanted him to get. He still is not getting the opportunity that the backup running backs in San Francisco have got, especially last year. But I'd still spend $1 on Elijah Mitchell. He is the clear backup there. 4 touches to CMC's 23. That sounds pretty even. But man, when you watch that game, it wasn't like that. He is the top handcuff in the NFL still. I will say that about him because that offense, man, just relies on that running game so much. So many opportunities to score as a running back in that offense. They host the Cardinals next week. They give up the 16th most fantasy points to running backs. That is average in the NFL. Next up, I saw Melvin Gordon sighting. $1 on Melvin Gordon. He had 12 touches to Gus Edwards' 11, okay? And Gus Edwards does not catch passes. Gordon had 2 targets. Justice Hill was out. I think I still like Justice Hill over this. This is all a shit show, dude. But hey, like I said, running backs are thin this year. They are super thin. So if you want to just see what happens, another pick up Melvin Gordon for $1, maybe he becomes more involved. They are at the Browns next week. Dude, the Browns give up the 26th most fantasy points, which again is a terrible matchup. The Browns defense is killing people. I bet you that number goes, I bet you they're even better after this week. Last running back on this list, I talked about him preseason, Latavius Murray, $1. He got another goal line touchdown this week. So we know that James Cook is going to get a lot of use between the 20s. But who is the goal line back for that high-powered offense in Buffalo? Well, right now, I think it's Latavius Murray. Both him and Damian Harris got touchdowns last week. But this week, again, Latavius Murray. Also, last week, Latavius got his usage early before Damian Harris. I am liking Latavius Murray. If you're super thin, man, I think he's like a 50-50 touchdown odds guy here right now. So he only had 5 carries, same as Damian Harris, but still, he got the touchdown. They do host the Dolphins next week, and they give up the 5th most fantasy points to running backs. Hell yeah, dude. So high scoring. We know Josh Allen can move the ball. I do expect Latavius Murray to get a touchdown next week. I would pick him up. All right, on to the wide receivers. Tank Dell is the first one here. I would spend $25 on him. He got 10 targets last week. I loved watching him in the week 1 and preseason. He was on my list of sleepers and stuff like that. And then here we go, dude. He finally boomed. 5 receptions for 145 yards and 1 touchdown on 7 targets, which led the team again. Like I said, he had 10 targets last week. And Robert Woods had like a 10 or 11 last week. Nico Collins had like 11 last week. So there was just a lot to go around. He is a 3rd-round rookie. So the talent, the investment is there, especially with the new coaching staff. You know, this is their guy on a team full of not their guys. And this is the big one here, guys. We're going to talk about CJ Stroud later. He produced in non-garbage time. They led that game, and these guys won the game, produced, dude, moved the ball, amazing. Something I did not think could happen. So Tank Dell skyrocketed up my list on this waiver wire show. Collins only held to 3 targets. You can't expect that often, so expect Collins to get more involved and maybe Tank Dell not get, 100 and plus yards and a touchdown. But still, dude, he's electric. He is like that slot receiver, and he is a rookie, so there is room for growth. Who knows what his ceiling is, especially with CJ Stroud there. They host the Steelers next week, and they give up the 15th most fantasy points to wide receivers. That is average, so nothing to be afraid of there. Next up, this guy is 50% owned. He is the most owned person on this list. Elijah Moore. I'd spend $10 on Elijah Moore. He led the team in targets with 9 and caught all of them for 49 yards, dude. This guy is being hyper-targeted right now with Deshaun Watson. I know Deshaun Watson is a lot worse than any one of us thought he was going to be. But still, dude, he had 9 targets last game. He did lose a goddamn fumble, which, that sucks, dude. I hate when my players lose fumbles because I feel like they lose trust in them, but whatever. They do host the Ravens next week, and the Ravens surprisingly give up the 8th most fantasy points to wide receivers, and we know the Browns defense is insane, so they're getting opportunity after opportunity here. If you can still go get Elijah Moore, do it. Which Green Bay wide receiver is going to be on this list this week? Hey, this week it's going to be Romeo Doubs, and I think that he is just going to be the most consistent person on this team. It's going to be up and down with Love. He throws touchdowns, not yards. I would spend $10 on Dobbs to get him back on my team because I dropped his ass in my 10-man league. 5 receptions on 12 targets, man. 12 targets is amazing for 73 yards and a touchdown. He has 3 touchdowns through 3 weeks, okay? Watson and Jones are still out, so we need to see what it's going to be like with those two in here. But hey, man, with all the data that we're given, and who knows when people are coming back and how healthy they are going to be, go out there and get yourself some Dobbs. Roll him out. Do not be afraid. I think he's going to be consistent this year. He's going to have some down games. I think his floor kind of sucks. But still, man, he's worth it as a flex. They do host the Lions next week, and they give up the 11th most fantasy points to wide receivers. That is a plus matchup. Next up, big surprise. Big Mike Williams had a huge game and then went down, I think, with a ankle or a hip injury. I can't remember what it was. I was watching that game. The Vikings, man. Oh, my God, dude. Terrible game. Whatever. So I would put down $5 on either Quentin Johnson or Josh Palmer. Now, Quentin Johnson is that Mike Williams prototype. Josh Palmer, I had last year, and he did really well for me, man. Austin Eckler, shout out to you. You had me pick him up last year, and I rode him for a couple games. So, yeah, I think I said I'd spend $5 on them. I think I would prefer Quentin Johnston because he is the rookie, like 2nd round, maybe even 1st round. And so the investment is there. And I just want the talent there. But Josh Palmer, I think that you could do worse. So, again, we need to see Mike Williams' injury. This offense is amazing. I do have Keenan Allen. And hey, if you listen to this show over the year, man, hopefully you have Keenan Allen too. Palmer, 4 for 66 and a touchdown on 7 targets. And a lot of that was after Mike Williams. So there you go. I was watching that game. They host the Raiders next week, and the Raiders give up the 12th most fantasy points to wide receivers. Again, that is a plus matchup. All right, guys, I thought this next guy was going to be a flash in the pan after week 1. Kendrick Bourne, I'd spend $5 on him. He led Pats receivers in targets with only 5 and yards with 46, but Mac only threw for 201. So that's like almost 25% of yardage there. He was 8th in targets overall coming into this game. In the NFL, he was 8th in targets. He had 11 targets and 2 touchdowns that week 1. That was that big game. But he still had 9 targets in week 2. And he is at the Cowboys next week. So that is a shitty matchup. Hey, check out the Cardinals right now. Maybe it's a plus matchup. They did lose Trayvon Diggs. Maybe the Cowboys offense, that was the lynch, that was like the pin that stuck that thing together, man. They are number 1 in the NFL versus wide receivers. So again, not a great matchup. But wide receiver, I do think that Kendrick Bourne is worth picking up, dude. He's super involved. Like, there are a lot of people that should not be owned ahead of Kendrick Bourne. Next up, my secret start of the week. I do not know how he's doing right now, but I do know that he had 6 targets before the half. So I came on here and I'm going to say spend $5 on Jonathan Mingo. He had 13 targets through the first 2 games, but only 43 yards and no touchdowns. Dalton is in this game and Bryce is out. And yeah, I do think that Dalton is a QB upgrade right now. I think by the end of the year, Bryce Young will be better than Andy Dalton. But right now, Bryce Young is holding on to the ball too much. He's not really seeing things very well. Just look at the game right now. I mean, I think Thielen was feasting as well. But still, give me that rookie to grow with that coaching staff and everything else. Jonathan Mingo, he was a 3rd-round rookie, I'm pretty sure. He is one of 7 wide receivers to play on 90% of his team pass plays this year. And like those 7 wide receivers are like Devontae Adams, Hill, Jefferson, like the normal names. And then Mingo's in there and it's like, who the hell is this dude? They do host the Vikings next week, and the Vikings only give up the 17th most fantasy points to wide receivers. That is a average matchup. You would think, knowing the Vikings, they give up the most or something like that. Zay Jones, he was out this week with a knee issue. I would spend $1 on Zay Jones. He is opposite of Ridley on 2 wide receiver sets. Who knows what's going on with the Jaguars offense right now? But I do trust Doug Peterson. I do trust this offense. And hey, Ridley almost just broke his leg in 3 pieces today. I got that in a text from Jason. I was like, holy shit, dude, I'm going to have to up Zay Jones to like $20. But then Ridley came back, so I put it back down to $1. He has 7 targets and 1 touchdown week 1, and then he had 6 targets and no receptions week 2. So he is targeted in these valuable, like deep passes and in the red zone, dude. You saw that touchdown catch he had week 1. I do think that he is going to be a flex play most weeks in this offense, especially when the defense is playing zone, because Christian Kirk is the man killer. So if they are playing man, it's going to be mostly Ridley and Kirk. But if you know the defense is going to be playing zone, go out there and play some Zay Jones. Jones in the zone, baby. They do host the Falcons next week. They give up the 26th most fantasy points to the wide receivers. That is a negative matchup. This dude, Josh Downs, I spent $1 on him. I've been kind of watching him. He is on the Colts. He is a 3rd-round rookie, right? He led the team in targets with 12 today. This was a Gardner Minshew game. But hey, dude, he had 7 targets in game 1. He had 5 targets in game 2. This is a rookie. Michael Pittman Jr. is like the clear second guy. I thought that Alec Pierce was going to be the deep threat for AR-15. But we need to maybe pick up Josh Downs and see what he does with Anthony Richardson. And if Gardner Minshew plays again, you could start him in your flex. They do host the Rams next week, and the Rams only give up the 22nd most fantasy points to wide receivers. That is a bad matchup. The deep threat of deep threats. Marvin Mims Jr., I'd spend $1 on him. I hate the Broncos offense. But you know what, dude? They're going to be coming from behind all the time. He went 3 for 73 on 5 targets. He did have a rushing attempt, which I always like. You know, he went 2 for 113 and had that deep bomb last week. He just missed out on a couple of deep bombs this week. I got to watch that game. And it was versus Miami, dude. So they needed it bad. They were just like bombing it out. Denver will be trailing a lot. So that is a recipe for Marvin Mims Jr. to maybe get some of these deep touchdowns. If you are in a league that gives bonuses to deep touchdowns and you do not have wide receivers, maybe pick up Marvin Mims. He was drafted by Sean Payton, I think, in the 2nd round. So, dude, I mean, great coach, great talent, and they invested heavily into him in the 2nd round. They are at Chicago next week. And Chicago gives up the 10th most fantasy points to wide receivers. All right, guys, on to the tight ends. Luke Musgrave, I would spend $5 on my Oregon State brethren. He got 6 passes for 49 yards on 8 targets. That's 2nd on the team in targets. He is averaging 5 targets per game through the first 3 weeks. He is a 2nd-round rookie, so the investment is there. The talent is there. They do host the Lions next Thursday, so he's got to show up Sam Laporta, who is killing shit right now. The Lions do give up the 3rd most fantasy points to tight ends. That is a matchup that we love. I would heavily recommend starting Musgrave next week. All right, guys, another tight end. We're talking about Parham, all right? He had 2 touchdowns this week. He had a touchdown in week 1. That's all he does is catch touchdowns. I was like waiting for him to like maybe like get involved in some intermediate shit, but all that shit is reserved for Gerald Everett. I still like Gerald Everett. And this offense comes from, you know, they made Dalton Schultz a star. You know, this is Kellen Moore with the Cowboys. Just think about all that tight end production coming from that position in that offense. So maybe Parham eventually comes around, but he is getting the value here with touchdowns. That's worth a roll of dice in the tight end wasteland. They do host the Raiders next week, and they give up the 6th most fantasy points to tight ends. So that's even a better roll of the dice. All right, guys, we have a reoccurring offender on this list. Our first quarterback, CJ Stroud. I would spend $5 on CJ Stroud, and I'm feeling better and better about playing this dude. He had 280 yards and 2 touchdowns today against Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville. And he had 23 fantasy points today and last week. And hey, this is the big one. Like I said, I called him the garbage king. You know, he was like the waste management property. He was the owner of waste management. He garbage master. Tony Soprano, man. No garbage time this week, and he still fucking killed it. So CJ Stroud getting the confidence of fantasy owners like me. They do host the Steelers next week, and the Steelers only give up the 22nd most fantasy points to quarterbacks. That's not good, but hey, right now, I don't give a shit, man. Like, CJ Stroud is a lot better than what we thought he was, and he has the weapons that we didn't think he had. An awesome stack right now is Tank Dell CJ Stroud, man. Let's do it. Last person on the waiver wire list, Jameis Winston. We need to see if Derek Carr is going to be injured. You know what's good for fantasy? Jameis Winston, man. I would spend $1 on him. I guarantee he outscores Derek Carr in any game that he has played in the last couple of years. Dude, Jameis Winston is not afraid to throw the fucking ball. He led in air yards to Olave. I remember I traded for Olave. Olave had like 250 air yards in one game. I think it was like one of the games. Like, given there was like 3 interceptions that game, and that's why they pulled him. And anyway, something to look for. More Michael Thomas, less Rashid Shaheed. They do host the Bucks next week, and the Bucks give up the 18th most fantasy points to quarterbacks. Hey, dude, give me Jameis Winston in a revenge game against the Bucks. If you are short on a quarterback, I think that you could pick up Jameis Winston, start him next week. Revenge game. Woo! All right, everybody, that is the show. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully I earned a thumbs up. Hopefully I earned a subscription. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. It would help us tremendously. Again, if I missed out on somebody, please comment below and let me know who that is. And hey, this is Tyler Big Turd Ward, and I appreciate you.